Good morning, everyone. I'm super excited about this webinar. I'm Joy Hawkins, and I'm joined here by the one and only Lily Ray. If you don't know Lily, she is one of my favorite people to follow on Twitter/X. I'm still going to call it Twitter for probably 3 more years. And I asked her to join us on this webinar because she's been tweeting about a lot of really interesting stuff lately. I feel like she's been sharing more about what she's been seeing with these Google updates more than anybody else that I've seen in the SEO space, and her findings are really interesting. So I asked her if she could make an hour out of her day for us and share some of the stuff that she's been talking about. Before we dive in, Lily, I just want to give you a quick minute here to introduce yourself to everyone.
Sure. First of all, thank you. Feeling is mutual, Joy. I love following you, and my team and I absolutely love the work that you do as well. So thanks for having me. My title is Senior SEO Director and Head of Organic Research at an agency called Amsive. So I help oversee our SEO team and many, many different clients, many, many different projects. But lately, like the last couple of years, my role has shifted a bit more towards doing a lot of what we call organic research. So just research about what's happening with Google and the other search engines, where SEO is going, what are the big trends, what are the big updates. So a big part of that, which we'll talk about today, is understanding or trying to understand who's winning and losing in visibility, and how does that kind of tie back to the direction that Google's trying to go or not. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So you just recently published a blog about some of the things that you're noticing. And I feel like our audience in particular will want to know, like, a lot of them are small business owners. So be interested to know, like, what you're seeing as far as trends go, especially that would impact like a plumber or a lawyer or anything like that. What are kind of the big trends that you've been seeing?
Yeah. So the types of changes that have been happening and the big updates and the outcomes of those updates affect everybody. I mean, anybody that's competing for any keyword has been affected by this pretty much. It's a massive change. We've seen a very, very massive change in the last, let's say, 8 months, particularly with regard to most likely this is all tied back to Google's hidden gems update, which I'll define in a second. But Google hasn't confirmed that this is all tied to the hidden gems update, but it seems that way. So just to take a step back, in May of 2023 at Google I/O, Google CEO Sundar Pichai said, we're going to be doing this new hidden gems update. We're going to be elevating and more hidden gems in search, which they broadly defined as like nuggets of information that are helpful from real people in the places where real people to have discourse online, right? So forums, social media sites, personal blogs, particularly forums, and guess what? Reddit is the main one. So that's fundamentally changed the whole landscape of organic search over the last 8 months.
What are your thoughts on, like, why Google is doing this? I have my own thoughts on this, but I'm curious to know, like, what do you think the reasoning is for, like, I would never have thought 2024 would be the year that we see forums everywhere in the search
Yeah.
results. Like, if you asked me that a year ago, that would not have been my prediction.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting theories about this. I think I recently read one by Mark Williams Cook. He wrote a really great article about this, but basically, like, this could be, I think, like, the main answer to your question that I've been thinking the whole time, and I think a lot of people have been thinking, is that human, human written, authentic content and experiences, which Google has been focused on before the rise of ChatGPT and generative AI, that's a way of combating very stale, very homogenous, very impersonal content, which AI driven content often tends to feel that way, especially when it hasn't been modified. So by blasting forums all over the place, that's one way, it's like a band aid. It's one way to say, okay, instead of tweaking the algorithms, which I think Google's absolutely doing or working on it, we can just kind of like let Reddit rank everywhere and LinkedIn rank everywhere because this is where real people are having conversations. Of course, that leads to the SEO community spamming everything, but it's to me it feels like a band-aid while they
Yeah, and
figure something
interest.
else out.
I noticed we had a client that was a divorce lawyer, and let's say they were in Louisiana. And so you would type in, like, Louisiana divorce, and it used to be like you'd see nothing but lawyers, right, for that.
Mm.
And I noticed a shift starting last year and maybe slightly before that, where Google started to surface like do-it-yourself content more, like how to file a
Mm.
divorce and all the laws you need to know and stuff, not necessarily like showing lawyers. And so we were really pushing like do-it-yourself content to clients and, like, putting stuff out there on, like,
Yeah.
how they can basically do it without hiring them. And we found that that content still led to conversions because the average person would go there and be like, oh my God, this is so complicated.
Yep.
I don't want to hire you. What I'm seeing now, though, is like some of these updates are actually pushing down the people that have the expertise, right? Like lawyers in this case, right? And they're replacing it with like forums that are talking about people who have been through divorces. And that's an interesting shift to me because I'm like, yeah, the person going through a divorce obviously has the experience. They do not have
Yeah.
expertise. What are your thoughts on that?
It's a very interesting example that you just gave because this is specifically what Google says in its search quality guidelines about why they introduced the new E for experience. So it used to be expertise, authority, and trust. Now it's experience, expertise, authority, and trust. And the example you just gave is very similar to the one that they have in the guidelines, which in their example, it says um, a cancer doctor would have expertise, and a person who has experienced cancer and is writing in a support group has experience. And those are two different types of content. And depending on what the user's needs are, what they're searching for, what they're looking for, which however Google determines that, the user might be looking for one or the other. So I guess this 2023 situation is kind of the outcome of them having enough user signals and enough feedback from the users and everything that people really want this. I think like the main, most obvious example of that is what's been the fact that it's like not a secret that everybody puts Reddit at the end of their search query. And that was a big thing in 2022. So it feels like they're over indexing a bit on experience, but like we talked about before, that could be, to me, it feels like a band aid while they figure out a more scalable solution for addressing AI content.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings on it. Like I think it's dangerous. Like the one that I tweeted this morning, this example was for like a garage door query. And it's like how to install garage door rollers yourself. Well, that could be potentially dangerous, right? Like so
Yeah.
you probably want to hear from experts, but what Google's done is they've actually pushed down some of the actual garage door companies, the people that would actually have the expertise in that. And again, it's like forums, Reddit, like everything that's at the top, along with
Yeah.
videos. So hopefully the videos are made by professionals, but I didn't look at all the videos. But
Yeah.
it's interesting because I'm like, on one hand, they have no bias. So like the people on Reddit that are giving this information are likely unbiased and they don't have any agenda. They're not trying to get you to hire them. So in some ways, I almost trust their advice more than sometimes the professionals. But then again, it's like, do these people know what they're doing?
Yeah.
I don't
That's
know.
the issue. I think what you just said in theory is true. Like that's in theory and historically, people felt that Reddit, especially Reddit, is a place to get these authentic conversations. Number one, because everything's anonymous, so I feel like that for whatever reason creates more transparency in general in Reddit. Like people are more honest about certain things, but also there's heavy moderation in Reddit. Reddit is known for its moderation, similar to Wikipedia. So whenever you see Google highlighting a site like Wikipedia or Reddit or something where there already is heavy moderation in place, I've always thought of that as a way to say, you know what, let them deal with it. We
Mm-hmm.
trust this website. They can deal with their own moderation. But like, yeah, I mean, the growth of Reddit is unlike anything I've ever seen in the years that I've been analyzing SEO visibility. It's hard to describe how much growth this is. Like, if I guess we're looking at maybe 700-point growth or 600, like for context, the biggest website in Systrix's index is I think about 7,000, 6,000 total. So the growth here is the size of like 10 times bigger than most website size, like overall. It's hard to describe, but it's enormous. And it's surfacing itself in many different ways. So it's not just the organic search results, it's discussion in forums, it's SGE, it's images, it's like there's a Reddit filter where you can just search Reddit, like something going on there.
That's interesting. So this is the question, like the $1 million question I've been getting asked. And I don't know if I even have a good answer to it yet, but like, what do you do about this? So let's say you're that garage door company and now Reddit just pushed you down 3 positions. And so you're not getting traffic anymore. And there's now a Reddit thread. What do you do? Do you go participate in that discussion? Do you try and get your own threads to rank? Like, what is the strategy?
Yeah, this is unfortunately a conversation that like I have and we've been having with clients a lot over the last, let's say, 3 to 4 months. It's a very frustrating moment in SEO right now, unless you're Reddit, right? Because everyone's looking for an explanation for things that feel very inexplainable in many cases. And Google has now confirmed multiple times they hear us, they hear our feedback, they hear our concerns, they're working on something or some things. So my job has become like, everyone calm down, everybody wait, everybody be patient, because we literally know, based on 25 years of Google history, that they bring down the hammer when things are broken, when things are being spammed, when people are taking advantage of things. So to your question, I wouldn't go to your client and say, go pay someone to manipulate the information on Reddit. Like, it's just not a good use of your time. If anything, try to figure out how to be the garage door company that people are talking about on there. What
Mhm.
are they saying? Take that to heart, you know?
Yeah, I saw a really interesting strategy. Actually, a friend of mine who owns a company, they did an AMA on Reddit, and so that ranks for their brand name. And I was like, that's a really
Cool.
smart way to get ahead, to control like when people are searching for your brand. Because I'm also
Yeah.
seeing that's another kind of big problem. A lot of big brands, and these are both clients of ours, competitors of our clients. We're starting to see Reddit threads now rank for their brand names, and some of
Mm.
it's like just their brand name. Sometimes it's like their brand name plus reviews, but like the majority of the ones I've looked at are not good. Like they are
Yeah.
rants. And have you run into that with clients? Like, and what do you advise in that situation?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's something that we've been helping clients with for a long time, just like SEO, reputation management, I guess. And yeah, people mostly go on places like Reddit and Yelp when they're angry, right? I think there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
statistics around that. But what's tricky about this time, if somebody left a bad review on some random blog, or if somebody, and a lot of these blogs, not blogs, but a lot of these websites will like allow you to respond as a business. They have like systems for that. But in this case, if Reddit is just ranking for everything all the time, and that's like an algorithmic thing that Google's done, there's not much you can do to suppress that right now. It's just not going to work. But I would, again, read the feedback, and use that information to respond. Like, maybe you can update your company's about page or information about your company to talk about how you're handling certain customer complaints, how you've evolved over time. Make some new videos talking about, hey, we hear you, and this is what we're doing to change. Because guess what else ranks number really, really well is YouTube.
Mm.
Go on YouTube and
Yes.
respond to people on Reddit.
That's a great idea. I love that. That's super practical and not something I've even thought of. That's definitely something we're going to have to clip and share later. So YouTube is, I feel like, a underutilized platform. And I also would say, most people aren't on Reddit either. So it can't hurt to have a voice on there. I just kind of warn people because they have no tolerance for spam or promotion. So if you get on
Yeah.
there and you start like recommending yourselves or kind of, really bragging, you're going to find the opposite of success really fast. So not a good idea.
Yeah, I'm surprised how many people are. I mean, of course, I'm not surprised that the SEO community, certain parts of the SEO community have found ways to manipulate and exploit what's happening on Reddit. Like, same with many other places that are ranking really well with Google's hidden gems update. Like, people are going on there and adding a lot of spam. But I'm surprised it's working. I'm surprised that people are seeing any success with spamming Reddit, because my SEO career started by spamming Reddit. That was the first thing my boss had me do.
Did you get
Go on
banned?
Reddit. Yeah, it doesn't work. It doesn't
Yeah,
work.
yeah. No, I was about
It
to say
never
I got
worked.
banned on Yelp when I started my SEO career. Same thing, right? It was like posting fake reviews. This is all
Yeah,
how every SEO starts
that's
their
how we
career, I feel
started.
like.
Yeah. That's so funny.
And Yelp banned me super fast. Um, yeah, no, it was interesting actually. I saw another company recently, that it's a well-known SEO company. They work with lawyers mainly, and one of their clients posted a Reddit thread about them. It was bad. Like they didn't say very good things. And this Reddit thread had 100 and something comments. It was actually kind of nuts, and now ranks like fourth for their brand name. And I really commended the company. They came on and commented. And I think it's good that they did because a lot of what the person said in their opening statement was false, like not even
Mm,
true. And they could easily back it up. So I
yeah.
would say that there is room for, business owners to be aware of what's being said and commenting, but just be very careful. It's like negative
Yeah.
review responses. We find often small business owners, when they respond, they shoot themselves in the foot because they sound
Yeah.
angry and defensive. And I'm like, you're doing some more harm than good. So I'd say
Yep.
probably the same
It's
rule applies to Reddit, right?
I mean, there's literally a department within the PR world of crisis management, and you should kind of treat it like that. Like, when something really bad is happening to your brand, which in this case could be people leaving really like bad reviews about your brand on Reddit, and that's ranking really, really high for your brand name. I would put that on crisis level, just because of the amount of visibility that people are or that site is getting, or that thread is getting, because of the nature of how high Reddit is ranking. And to your point, I look at the data and I'm seeing the highest visibility keywords that Reddit currently has ranking on Google are the names of big brands. Like Chick-fil-A, for example, is a brand that Reddit ranks maybe number 2 for. So it's like their website and then Reddit. So yeah, to your point, do pay attention to what people are saying there. And if you can squeeze in a very controlled response to what people are saying, I think that's a great approach and one that you should do across the board with all websites.
Other than Reddit, specifically in forums and things like that, were there other kind of takeaways you saw from all the updates that would change how a business owner should approach SEO in general?
Well, it's really tricky because I personally, and Google might get mad at me for saying this, but that's fine. I personally think they got a lot of things wrong. I think I'm not alone in that. I think like the last 6 months, they tried to do things that were like really noble efforts in many cases. Like, okay, this is a noble, helpful content update in theory, should be highlighting people with real experience and real, all these things. But I think that they maybe went a bit too far with that. And there's a lot of examples with the last several months of updates where I think maybe they were trying to achieve something and it didn't quite work that way. So what's tricky right now about giving SEO advice is unfortunately the spammers are winning in a lot of
Mm-hmm.
ways right now. Right now. And I don't think it'll last forever. If anybody here has been working in our industry long enough to remember Penguin and Panda, these things work until they don't. And the spammers have their glory day and then it all ends until the next one. But like, so I really don't recommend being reactive right now. I don't recommend changing your strategy from the fundamentals of what's a good marketing best practice.
Yeah, no, that's good advice. I feel like people also are very panicky and they want a solution immediately rather than just waiting and seeing what happens, right? So it's
Yeah.
good. I just want to make sure everyone in our audience knows we are going to be looking through the questions and going through tons of them. So please post your questions in there if there's anything specific that you want us to talk about. I did want to ask you, Lily, about AI content and what trends you're seeing there, if any. Like, are you seeing that really like AI content is doing just as good as regular content, or is it doing worse, or what trends are you seeing there?
Uh, it's hard to summarize all of AI content, right? Because it could mean a lot of
Mhm.
different things, but it's true. It's a fact that many people who are experimenting with AI content and maybe even pushing it, what I would feel like is pushing it a bit too far, it's working. It's working. Maybe it stops working at one point and they don't share those charts after their site
Yeah.
lost all of its visibility, because that also happens frequently with a lot of this AI content. But AI content's working splendidly on Google right now. There's no doubt
Yeah.
about that. We have clients who are, I mean, just one yesterday. There's a website that's taking their content, repurposing it with AI, publishing it as if they wrote it. Not mentioning our client, not mentioning the original source, but it's like almost like a form of scraping and syndication at the same time without the client's consent, and they're outranking the client every time.
Yeah.
So it's
Oh,
working.
this is one of the I have a comment on that, but I was going to say first the AI thing. I noticed a lawyer I was looking at again. I look at a lot of lawyers, but it was funny. One of my staff noticed that this lawyer she was auditing had like kept their prompt in their content, so it's like really easy to tell that they wrote it with ChatGPT. And so we were all laughing at that. So I took a look at their website and I was like, they published like 60 articles all on this like same day that they published this one where they forgot to take out their prompt. And like you put their site into Ahrefs and it's just like
Yep.
like they had this
Yep.
surge in traffic and like it's terrible. Like the content would fail every like usability test. Like it's got no headers, it's literally just walls of words, but it ranks well. Like so it's kind of interesting to see that there's truth to that. Like it is working.
It's working now.
Yeah.
So the question,
Yes.
and the people that are doing it, a lot of them are very excited for good reason. I've
Mm-hmm.
been calling it the gold rush. It's the gold rush
Mm.
of spamming Google, and it's working. People are making lots of money. So if you're doing that, good for you. Enjoy your money, whatever. Just understand it probably won't continue to work forever. And when I say that, I mean you might lose 99% of that in any day now. So when that happens, don't be mad at Google because they warned you, you know?
Yeah. What do you think? So, this is something that we've come into recently. So, I obviously contribute to lots of blogs, right? And write for other people. And obviously, you do as well. And that's a great way. in SEO to kind of get a name for yourself, get links, all this stuff. Like it helps you when you write for other people. What we're running into now is like I've had people reach out to me and ask me about them using my content that I wrote and like using it in AI format, which is going to like answer people's questions on their site. And I'm like, I have a problem with that because there's no attribution. Like nobody's going to know I wrote it. Nobody's going to know anything about the author. And I feel like this is going to become more and more the norm where sites are trying to, use this AI thing. And how would you feel about that? And like, what about your clients if they're contributing to other sites and those sites start using their content and like using it in an AI way that doesn't really attribute them? I feel like it's dangerous, but
Yeah, I think it's also very dangerous. I mean, there's like these really loose rules and guidelines around this right now. Like theoretically, you're supposed to say when something was created with ChatGPT, which nobody does, and it's
nobody
not
does.
being enforced. Google's going to try to Google's watermarking AI generated images. Like they're trying, but the cat's out of the bag. Like it's just too little, too late at this point. And what I wish Google had been more strict or stringent about last year was when they put out basically one article all year. That's how we handle AI content, maybe two. But this basically said at the end of the article, first, the whole article talks about AI is great. There's lots of cool ways to use it. It's mostly fine for SEO. We don't look at whether it's AI or human, which I was like, oh no, they just created the biggest can of worms for themselves. But that's okay. At the bottom of the article, it said, by the way, if you do use AI content, number one, you should indicate that as part of like the byline. You should either say this was written using AI or written in collaboration with AI. Number two, we recommend when you always disclose when you used AI as part of the content creation process. No one's doing any of those
No one's
things.
going to
No
do that.
one.
Why would you do that? Yeah.
So they didn't say or risk a penalty
Right.
or there will be future updates aimed at devaluing this type of content. They didn't say that. So
Yeah.
here we are.
Yeah. I don't know why anyone would do that, to be honest. Like, there doesn't seem to be any benefit to doing it. And if there's no risk,
Yeah.
the watermarked images is interesting. So I don't think I've seen that. So what does it look like? Do you have an example of like a AI image that got labeled?
I actually don't know what the technology looks like. It's just something that Google announced last year that they'd be doing with their AI generated images. There's some type of watermarking in the background. I don't know how it works.
Interesting. But like something that a user could see or no? It's just something that Google does
I
in the
think it's
background.
more like metadata.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's
Maybe
that's
somebody else knows.
definitely a trend to watch for. All right, I'm going to shift topics slightly here. So I want to talk about Parasite SEO. I think you're going to need to define it because we might have some people on here who have no idea what that is. But that's been something that I've heard talked about a lot. I find it really fascinating. So first of all, can you define it for people that have no idea what it is?
Sure. So first of all, that's a name that the SEO community, a lot of the people that do Parasite SEO, they've given that tactic. It's not actually something that Google uses as a phrase, but the idea behind it is you're latching onto another website that has very strong authority and a good history of seeing success on Google, and you are usually like working with them directly to submit sponsored content to their website. And that sponsored content generally ranks very, very well and very, very quickly because of the history of their website. So there's a lot of like local newspapers and magazines and things like this who have opened up a folder or a subdomain on their website to sponsored content. And you can say, I'd like to buy an article. And then you can say, here's my 10 best weight loss gummies for 2024. Put your affiliate links in there. And in 6 hours, that article now ranks best weight loss gummies on the small newspaper magazine's website because of their existing SEO performance. So you're a parasite on their site and you're capitalizing off their SEO success and making a lot of money, and it ranks really well. And this is another example of something that spammers, I'm sorry to call them that, but that part of the SEO community are doing and seeing a lot of success and making a lot of money. So it's been happening for a while, but it's definitely ramped up in the last year. And that's a more egregious example, but there's more like subtle ways that this happens in the search results as well. So most of the big news publishers online and publishers in most categories, I would say, most big sites have some affiliate section where there's some kind of third party sponsored content happening, or some kind of company that's creating a lot of affiliate sponsored content. Or in the case of Sports Illustrated, which this is public, that's why I can say that, using a company that's submitting AI generated content with reviews and publishing that as product reviews for sports equipment. So a lot of people are doing this. This is why you're probably going to see a lot of, let's say, high authority, semi like topically unrelated sites that rank for a lot of affiliate and product review content.
Yeah, so we have an example. So we can put up the screenshot of that. I looked at best photographers in New York City, and lo and behold, there is a LinkedIn post. This is an example that was provided on Twitter when somebody was asking for an example of Parasite SEO. And so we can post the link to the actual LinkedIn post so people can see it. It's not insanely spammy. Like, it's basically the top 10 best photographers in New York City. You might argue maybe these aren't the best photographers, and clearly the person that wrote it is likely affiliated with one of the ones they're linking to and therefore trying to, boost that person up. But I don't see how that's any different than like advertising on other sites, or you can buy your way, to some of the top of Yelp in the sense of ads, being put in at the top there. And how is this different than that?
So good question. There's a spectrum of Parasite SEO. And there's also this other layer, which I think is kind of what you're showing here, which is people are using like LinkedIn and Quora and Reddit, which is tied to the hidden gems update. They're capitalizing on the visibility that those sites currently have in their user-generated sections. So LinkedIn has a lot of places where you can submit user-generated content, and people are using like what you just saw. Okay, I'm going to use that opportunity to talk about the 10 best photographers. I didn't read that article that you just posted, but maybe it's fine. There's a much, much more egregious side of Parasite SEO, and this would be like uh, a local newspaper. And I haven't actually spoken to any of these newspapers that are doing this, but I'm afraid they don't know what they're doing to themselves, to their brand. I'm afraid. So they need revenue. It's no secret that these newspapers need extra revenue. So they open up a folder and they say anybody can buy a sponsored post for X amount of money. People buy the sponsored post, and they quite literally spam it with affiliate links to uh semi like dangerous or like untested health products and supplements, casinos, Viagra, like all kinds of spammy type of content. And now it's on a local newspaper's website as the 10 best casinos in 2024, right? I don't know that they're even necessarily reviewing it in some cases. So that's on them, obviously, but uh it's an unfortunate way that people are taking advantage of Google for many years, giving a lot of visibility to these types of websites.
Yeah, so in theory, there is like a maybe right way to go about this. That one caught my eye because it didn't seem crazy spammy to me, and I was like, well, also, chatting with some of our link builders here, I was like, you don't want to get banned from LinkedIn, which is clearly a fear, and yeah, it was. I feel like maybe there is a fine balance where you can use this strategy a bit, but maybe not overdo it like some of the examples that you're talking about. um,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm going to get to questions here soon. There's another big topic that I definitely wanted to ask you about because I feel like it's people are talking about it so much, even though I personally find it boring, which is SGE. So, like, I heard that Google made an announcement that everyone's like, "Oh, SGE is not happening anymore," and now it's not going to become a thing, and that's what everybody's saying. I no idea if there's any truth to that, but what
Yeah.
is your understanding of that announcement that Google made?
That's for sure like SEO misinformation tabloid.
Okay.
But like, I mean, I'm part of it because I actually literally posted and said, what do we make of this sentence? Because when Google announces something, they
Mm-hmm.
often, you have to imagine how many people are reviewing these documents before they go live. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the one about SGE was interesting because, and it was Nicole DeLeon, if she's watching this, she was the first person that tagged me about this, like, what is going on here? They announced two different features. Like, one's AI generated multi-search, like it's like, and it's circle to search on your Android device, like two seemingly unrelated things that had nothing to do with SGE. They don't have anything to do with SGE except for with multi-search. I think you can now, with multi-search, by the way, is when you search for like a picture on Google Lens and then you can modify the query, and then you can see, now you can see this new like interesting SGE experience where it's like you searched for a caterpillar and you type blue and here's a blue caterpillar, right? At the bottom of that article, it says, we're continuing to experiment with all these new ways to use AI. And basically, like, some of you might be wondering what's happening with SGE, and it's still in labs, it's still in beta. Thank you to our early adopters. Going forward, we're going to try to like create AI for the public more or something. Like that's basically all it said. It's like, what? So we've taken that to mean maybe SGE. I mean, for sure SGE is getting delayed, but it's hard to say whether it'll ever really even happen.
Yeah, there was a really interesting quote. I wish I literally had the quote verbatim, but I'll try and summarize. In this podcast that I listened to, Authority Hacker, it's one of my favorite SEO. Actually, it is my favorite SEO podcast, and they were talking about how SEOs tend to obsess about the future, and like they talk about all these shiny objects, and it's true. Like I think about like all the things we've done in history. Like it was mobile, everything mobile. You know, you got to get your site mobile friendly. If you don't, your rankings are going to tank, and that didn't happen. Like no websites tanked because they weren't mobile ready. There was, the whole hype about voice search where we were like, voice search is like the new thing, and people would sell it, and then like, yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
not a thing. And I feel like SEOs do that a lot. And they were saying that, it really is important to focus on what's working now and stop
Yep.
obsessing. He's like, because, if you're worried about having a job in the future, you need to make money now to have a job in the future. I was like, it's so true.
Yeah.
We're sitting around discussing SG and things that haven't even happened yet. And I'm like, we don't know anything about SGA. Like when people ask me about it, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what's going to work, what's not going to work, or if they're even going to release it. Like, let's
It
worry about it when
changes
it
every
happens.
day. It changes every day. I mean, last year I spoke at a million conferences, and I would say 50% of that I was speaking about SGE, more so in the beginning of the year, because this was like, oh my goodness, our whole industry is broke, like it's disrupted, like everything's different. And I did literally, starting at day one, start doing experiments with SGE where I wanted to see if I could affect what appears there. It turns out you can very easily. But to your point, every single day was a different product. So every single day the answer was different. It showed, it didn't show, it had the trigger button. It's like how can you possibly make assumptions? And it just, to your point, it speaks to why it's so hard for people to trust SEO professionals, because all of us have this tendency, because we're SEOs and we like to create content and we know the value of creating content. So we like to create content about things that are not like confirmed. Here's what this might mean. And then like a business owner is like, oh my goodness, this is what this might mean. And it's like, who wrote that? What do we know about whether or not this is going to happen? And why are we spending so much time speculating for something that
Yeah.
you can hardly prepare for in the first place?
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I'm very much about like analyzing the here and now and doing tests on current things that I can influence in the SERP. I really
Yeah.
don't care about what's coming. Like,
Yeah.
if we're all doomed, we're all doomed. There's nothing I'm going to do to stop it anyway. So I really don't
Well,
think SEO is going anywhere.
local's not doomed. I think you're
No,
good.
we're good. I'm not the least bit worried. And we're not seeing any trends. Like I know there's a lot of buzz about like, oh, like search traffic's declining and stuff. I'm personally not seeing that trend. I don't know if you are, like your clients getting less traffic from Google than they used to. Um, there's a
Yes,
couple
they
minor
are.
trends that you are seeing that. Okay, so let's
It
talk about
depends
that.
on
So
the
what?
category. It depends on the category.
Okay.
Yeah, for like, I mean, local clients, like that's a great example, and maybe even e-commerce as well. Google is the biggest competitor in the e-commerce space. Probably it's same with local and travel and things like this. But for news and publishers who I work with day in and day out, yeah, they are
They're getting less.
rapidly losing Google traffic and
And
Discover traffic.
are you seeing a shift somewhere else? Like they're increasing traffic somewhere from some other source?
Well, Google Discover is the big one.
Mm.
And it's frustrating because Google, and a lot of people say you can't do anything to influence Google Discover, but it's our only hope, right? It's like
Mm.
the only place, because Facebook is worse, Twitter is worse, everything's worse. So it's a lot of existential dread in the publishing community. But I hope Google fixes search and Discover so we don't see at least as much spam in those places. So we create some more space for publisher sites. But yeah, uh, sites that are competing with Google, like categories that are competing with Google, are seeing a lot less traffic overall, for sure.
I remember from your LocalU presentation a couple of years ago that you did on Discover, one of your tactics or tips for getting listed in Discover was around clickbaity titles. And you were saying
Mm.
how Google tells you not to use clickbaity titles, but if you look in your Discover feed, literally it's all clickbaity titles. So that was a really good tip. Obviously, people do that anyways to get clicks on social media and stuff. But other than that, are there other like really practical things that a business should be doing to increase their odds of getting listed in Discover?
Yeah, tons. It's a completely different ball game than SEO, believe it or not. A lot of people will say you can't optimize for it, and a lot of people will say it's the same thing you're already doing, and the two things are just wrong. My team and I work on Discover consulting and audits day in and day out lately. There is enough business and there is enough we have enough case studies and success stories to know that this is actually working. Um, it's more like social media. It's more like writing for social media, and it's sometimes requires a separate content strategy. Sometimes requires taking existing content and repurposing it in different ways. So using things like the OG title, which is used for Facebook and social media, often that gets picked up in Discover. So maybe you can write a Discover friendly headline there and keep your title tag in H1 optimized for SEO. The images are extremely important. The way that you're writing, the entities that you write about, the topics that you write about, where has your website seen success on Discover in the past? How can you kind of like tap into that and do more there? So it really requires a deep understanding of how to analyze Discover data, which is very tricky. And unfortunately, it's very hard for the average SEO to know that much about it because Discover data is only available basically first party through Google Search Console. Although that's changing, there's new tools in the market, but yeah.
That's solid. I can't say that I pay any attention to the OG title, so that is that is definitely something that would be helpful to fill out, right? Because you write titles differently for social media than you
Yeah,
would write for Google. I'm finding this with YouTube, even like our YouTube titles are nothing like what we write for blogs and things we're ranking on Google, right? They're just totally different beasts.
totally
So
different. I would look at the New York Times. New York Times often has different title tags, H1s and OG titles, and that's very much by design.
hmm. Well, I will say this is a good segue. There's a trend that I've been analyzing and watching, which is essentially Google's local packs. They've made some changes for some industries to how they display the local packs that is actually keeping traffic from business owners, like keeping people on Google, not going to their sites. We're going to be
Mm.
talking about that in our next webinar. So when we put the sign up link for that, our next webinar is going to be in March. Or sorry, February. I don't know what month it is. February 27th. And I'm going to be joined with Dale from Jepto and Noah Lerner, who works here at Sterling Sky. We're going to be talking about Google Business Profile performance data, that used to be called insights, but just like essentially what these metrics mean, how you can actually analyze them. There's been a lot of really weird like spikes lately. And I want to show some examples in that webinar about like things we've seen which have caused decreases to some of those metrics, but not something people should panic about. It's just a matter of understanding what they mean. So definitely, if you're interested in that topic, make sure you subscribe to our channel to get notified when that happens, or you can also sign up on the link there. I'm going to go ahead and take some questions now. So I'll put this one up here. So what do you think the helpful content update is rewarding? And do you think it will be reversed?
Yeah. First of all, the helpful content update, generally speaking, doesn't reward sites as much as devalue sites. So technically, the way the update works is there's this notion of a machine learning classifier. Think of it as like a flag on your site, and that's your site is now unhelpful. Your site has been marked as unhelpful. And the severity of that flag, of that classifier, depends on how unhelpful that your site is. By the way, I'm using Google's language. I don't necessarily think your site is unhelpful, but Google's algorithms think your site is unhelpful. So we have specifically worked on dozens of sites that were affected by this update. And I've looked at hundreds, and like it's to me very obvious. It's very, very obvious what Google was going after. Unfortunately, I don't know that it was. There were a lot of warning signs to that community that what they were doing was maybe taking things a bit too far. So basically, generally speaking, the helpful content update affected a lot of bloggers, a lot of what we call like niche site owners, people that are writing about a specific topic, whether they're writing about cooking or they're writing about traveling or writing about best pet, whatever, clothing. Um, a lot of them had these websites that are creating a lot of new content. And in some cases, they're using AI. In some cases, they're using stock photography. They're not always proving that they actually did the research. And they're churning out lots and lots and lots of content. And like we talked about before, they're growing very, very steadily in many cases and thinking this is going to last forever. And the helpful content update comes and says, nope, like people think this content it's too SEO driven. There's too many ads. The UX is terrible. You've written 200,000 articles about how to lose 2 pounds in 4 days, how to lose 7 pounds in 6 days, how to lose, you know what I mean? Like they figured out, it's like programmatic SEO. They figured out these ways to maximize all the possible keyword variants and rank one page for every single one. And it used to work and now it doesn't. So I think Google was right for trying to do something about this because too many sites took it too far, but I think Google might have taken its update too far. A lot of people
Mhm.
that did have really good content got hit by that very severely. And what's tricky now is we haven't seen another helpful content update. So to the original question, a lot of these sites are not going to see any significant movement until the next update happens. So I do think they'll have a new one soon, for sure.
Yeah, I saw there was only one business that I saw that was really impacted by that update, which was a criminal lawyer. Like most of our clients were fine. Like they don't really tend to get updated, like hit by those updates. But this criminal lawyer, what was interesting is it does match some of the same patterns that you were saying. They had so much content, like it was almost overkill. They also
Yep.
were big on YouTube, and they would take their YouTube videos and just post the transcripts. And that's like it was messy. It didn't like
Yeah.
read well. And also like people don't read the same way that they talk in a
Yeah.
conversation. Like I would
Yeah.
never publish a blog that is literally this conversation right now. It would
Yeah.
not read well.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, like I felt bad because I'm like, well, you're like a good business. He had a lot of really good content on YouTube, but yeah, it was bad. Like he just went, poof, so
It's a bloodbath. And
yeah.
it's really hard. We've worked with literally, we had a helpful content update audit, mini audit that we offered clients to help them kind of figure out what's going on. And it's very frustrating. I see there's many of them that are still flat. Like frankly, and we say this in our audits, we should not expect some huge growth outside of a major update. And we also know, I mean, Google has been getting a lot of pushback about this update. A lot of
Hmm.
people are very publicly complaining, and they've very publicly responded. They said, you know what? We hear your concerns. Like we got it. And they've said many times in the last few weeks, we are working on all of this. Bear with us. It's hard to get it right algorithmically, and we want to get it right.
Have you seen any like not reversals, but like recoveries, whatever you want to call it, from people that got just completely slammed with that update where they're starting to do better now? Or does it like do they have to wait until the next one comes around?
Yeah, it's both from what we understand about Google updates. I'm personally not expecting any big changes until the next helpful content update happens. And also the way that Google describes it working is when Google's had enough time to process that your website's in a better place, maybe you've taken care of the root of the problem, the classifier will be lifted. But that takes a really long time. So it hasn't been enough time. And I know people are very impatient, they're very frustrated, so they expect things to happen more quickly. But I've tried to tell people from day one, this is going to take a very long time. Some of our
Mm-hmm.
clients who have been hit by core updates, it took 2 years of hard work. I'm sorry to say,
Oh,
but that's what we're dealing with.
whew.
Yeah, yeah,
Another question that came in also related to the same thing. Do you think that like some of the on-page tools are still relevant? And I know they're like, I don't know these two that he's referring to, but there are lots of tools out there that'll tell you, you know, how many times to put the keyword, where to put it in your title, your header, whatever. Do you feel like the helpful content update is penalizing over optimized pages?
yeah. That's exactly what it's doing. Um, I think it's less about the page being over optimized and more about like what you said with the company that you saw, the law firm. It's more about what percentage of pages on this website are generated because they match a high volume SEO keyword and they're trying to show that they have one page per great keyword. So, and especially doing things like when does the next Mario Brothers movie come out? Or Mario movie brothers, sorry, I can't speak, reveals the date for the new season, right? And then you go to the page and it says the season hasn't really been confirmed, so we don't exactly know when it's coming. But anything like that is not good.
Hmm.
So it's really about the nature of what the site is trying to do. When Google's algorithms pick up on the fact that this site is trying to just generate a lot of SEO volume and not add a lot of value for users, that's when you're in dangerous territory.
We see, this is something I actually haven't really talked about a lot, and I need to publish more about it, but like content pruning is really effective. Like finding pages that are essentially about the same exact topic and then combining them. We see
Yeah,
massive ranking boosts when we do that for clients. Still works really well. And I also think people are getting confused because like on-site optimization still works very well. Like I actually have this, I've seen this come up on Reddit threads a lot in the last 2 weeks. People are talking about if like optimizing for near me works. They're like, and some people are going like really far to one end going, Google knows what near me means and they're going to like show local businesses. And I'm like, actually, they really don't. I'm like, it still works really well. Throwing
yeah,
like near you in your title tag shouldn't help you rank better, but it does. So it's like, why wouldn't you do it if it works? Like it still works. So
I
this
know.
is not to say like stop at optimizing your website. There's just a
Yeah,
fine balance.
What's tricky about it, and I don't think this has happened for near me necessarily, but that's the type of pattern where it can, like, here's another example that's similar. Putting 2024 in all of your title tags because you found a piece of code in your WordPress, templates where you just switch 2023 for 2024, and then the user's reading the article. And I've had this happen with a client that I worked with for the helpful content update where it was about best DJ headphones and for 2023, right? In the title, and then in the article it said these 2017 headphones are the best ones for this year, and I was like,
Oh no.
2017, I'm a DJ. Now I lost all confidence in all of the content on this website
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like you took advantage of me by saying 2023. I'm sorry, like I'm taking it really far, but like that's what Google is trying to respond to. People are like, this is so annoying. Like I'm annoyed by this website, right? So
Yeah.
when there's too much of that, I think that's what they're going after.
Is near me or 2024 spam. Gee, you're hilarious. No, so I don't think near me optimization is spammy at all. I'm like, if it works, do it. Like, I don't see any harm to users. I've had clients tell me it's spam, and I just say, you know what, if you don't want to do it, you're lost. Like really, like you only stand to gain from it at this point. And if it stops working,
Yeah.
it stops working, and we'll stop doing it. But at the same time, I'm like, if it works, I don't see a reason not to do it. Like, get the traffic while you can. It's
Doesn't
my
Yelp have like a whole website section for near me?
They do this like crazy. They also do the year thing. Like usually Yelp and TripAdvisor, who I see that in the most, but they also, in fairness to them, do keep their lists updated, right? Because they've got user
Yeah,
generated content
they've got
constantly
exactly.
refreshing it. So,
It
they're
is
not doing
actually
anything.
accurate. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another one that Guy wants to know is, when will link spam stop working?
I've been wondering the same thing for 15 years. You tell me. I don't know. I wish it would stop working.
It works so well. And this is where I'm like, again, fine line between spam and non-spam. I mean, guest posts are something I know that most people will probably say is spam. They work really well though. And at the end of the day, if it works and you're not going to get penalized, do it till it doesn't work, I guess. But I do think there is risk when you overdo any SEO strategy, right? But
Yeah. I guess it depends on the type of spam. Unfortunately, it's one of those things. It works really, really well, and then it stops working, and then they call our agency and want us to clean up the mess.
yeah, I think there's a big difference though between something stopping working and actually getting a penalty. And I think that's where people
Yeah.
get, there's a lot of things where like you spend all this time and maybe you're wasting your time, but there's no penalty. Like you're not actually getting
Yeah.
penalized. Like what you were describing where Google puts like a flag, that's something you don't want, right? That's something different. But it's interesting with links. I asked around, I feel like I asked you, I asked Marie Haynes, a few others. I was like, when was the last time you saw a manual action for links? Like I haven't seen one in a really long time. And so it seems like the patterns I've been seeing, and I've been studying links a lot in the last couple of years, Google devalues the site giving the link, not the site receiving the link. So we've
Mm,
seen like sites that give a lot of spammy links. Like let's say it's a guest posting site. You put the site in Ahrefs and like you have this like crazy graph and then poof, it just drops. So any of those links that were on that site now have zero value. So if you're
yeah.
using that as a strategy, you lost all that value that you were getting. So you might
Hmm.
see a drop in rankings as a result because you no longer have that credit. But I haven't seen anything that would lead me to think that Google actually puts a penalty on the site receiving the link other than manual penalties, which I just never see anymore.
Yeah, good point. I think you're right. I've seen fewer link-related manual penalties. I've seen other types more often. But that's probably, and Marie could tell you all about this, but that's probably because Google's getting much, much better at doing this algorithmically, and they have their own new shiny systems for this now. They have
Sure.
spam brain, they have link spam, they have all these different things that they're experimenting with. But yeah, I tend to discourage, and this is not a secret, but like our team, we discourage a lot of these types of things only because um, whether or not it gets neutralized and there's no impact on your site, or in most cases, there is some type of negative impact. Maybe it's not like, oh, you got a message from Google, but there's like an algorithm update happens, or your site starts to degrade over time. I think often when Google sees that you've participated in something that goes against their link guidelines, it factors into their overall quality assessment of the site.
Mm-hmm. Another good one here. I'm going to try to hammer through a lot here because we got 10 minutes left. So just go ahead. Should we consider creating a forum on our own website?
If you can manage it.
Yeah, I'll give experience here. We manage a forum, so Sterling Sky owns the local search forum. It's thousands of dollars a month in like labor to manage a forum. Just so you know, it's not a cheap endeavor because what makes forums good is the fact that they're moderated by humans. That takes work. You have to pay somebody to do that. And then also you have to get people to use it, right? So it's like dead forums aren't going to help anybody. So promoting it, getting people to use it is not an easy task. But absolutely, if you have one, it's a good time to have one. Not going to lie. Like, it's really great. We didn't do anything, and all of a sudden our traffic is up like crazy. So thanks, Google. All right, here's one here. How do you think the upcoming changes to Google's starter SEO guide impact future strategies, if at all?
I honestly didn't get a chance to see what they cut. I just know that they're cutting it in half. Did you, Joy? I don't know.
No, to be honest, I really don't pay attention to any of Google's guides. Like, I don't know. I think there's some value in them, but also we have people like Lily who can summarize them for us. But they're really long
I'm
documents.
behind
Are you?
on my to-do list right now. I'll get there. I'll let you know later.
Yeah. So we're not sure. How do you feel about press releases these days?
I think that you should do them when you have something press-worthy to say. I think trying to artificially create press releases is like a waste of time. Maybe it's a good way to get your foot in the door and build some new links if you don't have links. But I think it's worry more about the press. Like what's the thing that's press worthy? Like get there first and then the press will follow.
Here's one. What about, okay, so going back to this LinkedIn thing. So if you write a LinkedIn Roundup article with intent and have a real human behind it, that's still a good idea?
All of this is a good idea. To me, it's more of a question of, do you want your literal name behind it? Because with LinkedIn, it's generally your name. I mean, people use fake names and things like this, but my whole thing right now is like LinkedIn is obviously, whether or not it knows that this stuff is ranking this well on Google, LinkedIn is pushing really hard for more user-generated content on LinkedIn. In fact, I find it very aggravating because it's like, hey,
Yeah.
Lily, chime into this question about canonical tags. Your expert
So
advice is
annoying.
needed. I'm like, my expert advice costs money. LinkedIn, you don't get to have that. No. So do the thing that you want to do on LinkedIn and capitalize on their growth as long as you're okay having your name and your business attached to it. Why not?
This is an interesting question. Does sentiment analysis have something to do with Google's inability to distinguish between spam and user-generated content? How would you answer that?
Interesting. It's impossible to know whether Google's using sentiment analysis for that. And there obviously are sentiment analysis tools, including Google's own NLP tools. That's the super interesting way to think about content. But I would imagine, I think that right now it's just a weird moment where there's so many factors that they're elevating or highlighting to try to elevate human authentic content where spam is easily able to get in there. So like, posting spam on Google Groups because Google Groups is being elevated because it's a user generated content site. It's not that Google can't determine that it's spam or not. It's like Google is just elevating that site so much. Do you know what I mean? So it's just it's a weird Wild West right now.
Yeah, I've got a few more questions here to queue up, but before I do that, I just want to make sure, Lily, tell people how they can get in contact with you afterwards if they have questions or want to talk. What's the best way to contact you?
Yeah, probably Twitter or LinkedIn. So it's just, you can Google my name and take your pick.
Awesome. And tell us, like, the company you work for, what kinds of clients do you guys service? Like, who would be a good fit if people wanted to hire you?
We do everything. We have a 35-person SEO team that is very specialized in a lot of different areas. We have a very strong tech team, very experienced with news and publisher and discover. That's kind of my side of the team. We have an auditing team. And then we also do a lot of e-commerce, a lot of local, a lot of everything but link building, to be honest. We work with partners for that.
All right. That's good to know. Obviously, I work at Sterling Sky, so no shock there. But I will call out our forum for those of you that don't know. We've been talking a lot about forums. The local search forum is a lot of work. We put a lot of effort into keeping it good. So if you are interested in learning more about local SEO, definitely check that out. So there was a question about the site that you were talking about that was outranking your client. The scraper site, let's call them. What were they stronger in? Like, why do you think they were beating your client? Are they stronger technically, authority? Like, what do you think was going on there?
Yeah, I think the website in general is bigger, stronger, more authority, more history, more links. It's more like a news publisher website where they're starting to experiment with, let's call it, content scraping from other people's sites. Unfortunately, it's similar to like the Yahoos of the world. We're having a field day in SEO right now. There's a lot of that happening right now, for sure.
Yeah, I would say this happens to us all the time. Like we'll cover something big and be the first to cover it, and then somebody else will just recap what I said, and then they get ranked instead of me, and it's frustrating. Like I've been there, but one of the things I've noticed is like definitely publishing date has a big impact on things, and we really push like updating content a lot because newer stuff for a lot of queries tends to get preference, which is irritating. If you're the first to publish, sometimes that can almost be a detriment. So definitely something that you want to keep in mind. Um, since you've been looking at SG quite a bit, have you actually seen the Reddit forum trend there as well?
Oh yeah, yeah. Who was it? Garrett Sussman yesterday or 2 days ago. I've seen this too. Our team has seen it, and he now saw it where SGE will say, according to a Reddit user, like,
Great.
and then it links to Reddit, and it's like it was about like homeowner. No, this one was about best movies of all time. That's what Garrett found. Best movies of all time. According to one Reddit user, these are the best movies of all time. I was like, seriously? So, so yes, Reddit shows up in there a lot. I've seen it a
This
lot.
is an interesting question. Do you think Yelp sites are dead? Yelp style sites. So I think they're talking about like directories. Um, Really interesting. I can't remember if it was yours or somebody else's. So somebody published some of the websites that got the biggest increases, and yellowpages.com was on there. Like,
Hmm.
blew my mind. I was like, really? Like, wow, are we going back in time if that's one of the biggest winners here? Have you
Yeah.
seen any trends on those types of sites?
Yeah, I think those sites are not going anywhere. I think a lot of the times with the visibility reports that I do, it's important to understand that websites that build new content all the time, by definition, because there's new restaurants, there's new businesses, there's new locations, right? They can grow in visibility just for that reason alone. So that could be what's happening with Yellow Pages. There's just more and more sites,
Mm-hmm.
ranking for more. When you buy Joe's Crab Shack and now it ranks for Crab Shack, that's a new Yellow Pages result, you know? So,
Yeah, well, we see
yeah,
like with some of the lawyers we work with, like Avo's got a forum, and that increased, and I'm like, that's a legal directory site that primarily gets a lot of traffic from Google, and I haven't seen that they're declining. They're still kind of everywhere, and especially if you have a forum attached to your directory, that's a
totally.
big win. Um, do you think Google gives too much weight to domain age?
Mm. It, I don't know if it's age, but like, yeah, this notion of authority, it seems to give a lot of almost too much weight right now. I think many people are saying such things. For me, it's Yahoo. For other people, it's Forbes. But yeah, these big behemoth websites tend to get away with things that other sites can't.
Oh my gosh, Forbes is everywhere. Like so many
Yeah.
clients. It's like the number one thing. I'm like, oh, go away, Forbes. Also, though, I'd love to be on Forbes SEO team. They must be like partying all the time. It'd be great.
I'd love to be on Yahoo's. Listen, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not really, but like, must be nice.
Oh
Nice work,
man,
guys.
this is a great question. What's the silver bullet? Do you have a silver bullet for local SEO? What moves the needle the
That's for
fastest?
you, Joy. That's for you.
Keyword stuff your business name. No, I'm joking. Actually, well, that does work really well. But I wouldn't just go throw keywords in there. We have a YouTube video. I don't even know if my team can pull it up fast enough to put it up, but we do have one where I talk about like how to actually name your business in a way that's good for SEO because people get this wrong a lot. So we've seen people where they literally change their name to a keyword. I actually was talking to somebody the other day that was thinking of doing that. I'm like, don't. Like, you need to have a distinguishing factor if you're going to be like, best SEO Denver. That's a terrible idea. Like, you would still want to have like, your name like Joy Hawkins SEO Denver or something so that your clients can actually find you. I've seen so many businesses do that, and like it actually does the opposite because now they don't rank for their own brand name and they don't rank in the 3-pack either yet. And it's just, yeah,
Mm.
a mess. But that's the only silver bullet I know of that actually literally can change rankings overnight. Um, but also, Google says not to do it, and if you are going to do it, you should do it the right way. So just disclaimer
Don't
there.
get suspended. Yeah.
um, so, final last thing, if you were to give one piece of advice to business owners for this year on where they should spend more time and where they should spend less time.
Less time being reactive and reading unsubstantiated theories. from the SEO and marketing space. Just like be careful where you get your information from, I would say. And more time building a personal brand and elevating the people that work at your site or your company, and putting a real human face behind things and real human perspectives and experiences, and video content as well.
Video content. Okay. And any particular platforms like, obviously YouTube, TikTok, like is it all of the above or
Yeah, if you can take a video asset and put it on both YouTube and TikTok, at least do that. But definitely, if you're choosing between YouTube and like Vimeo, sorry, you choose YouTube. Like
yeah.
Google, guess what? Highlights YouTube for everything. So
Oh man.
you got to be
We
there.
did a case study on that too. Client that switched from YouTube to Vimeo and their like traffic just went like it was crazy. Yeah.
Sorry,
So
Vimeo. Yeah,
Google loves Google. What can I say? All right. Well, I just want to say a huge thank you, Lily, for carving out time to talk to us. You shared a lot of really great tips. Make sure you follow her on Twitter if you don't already, and watch all the wonderful things she posts. And
thanks.
until I see you next, maybe MozCon. Are you at MozCon?
Yeah,
Okay. I
yes.
will see
And
you
New
in
York.
person in New
You'll
York.
be
Oh,
in New
right.
York as well.
That's right. Looking forward to hanging out in person. So if
Yay,
you
me
want to
too.
hear Lily speak, what's the New York one called? Do you know the name of the conference?
It's called a New York City meetup.
Oh, there you go. All right, yeah, I'm at that one as
Keyword
well.
stuffed.
Nice. We'll have to chat with them about making that better. And then MozCon is in June in Seattle. So if you want to meet Lily in person, check out one of those events. Thank you so much for joining us, Lily, and for the rest of you, have a wonderful day.
No problem. Bye. Thanks, everyone.